Today, we are diving deep into one of the most talked about and, let's be honest, controversial books out there, Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. You could see it as a guide to how power is won, kept, and defended. So let's explore the unseen rules of the game. Think about it for a second. Robert Greene's whole argument is that life is one big game of power. It's being played all around us, every single day. In the office, at family dinners, even with your friends, these unspoken rules are constantly shaping your world, whether you realize it or not. And here's the catch. Ignoring the game doesn't mean you're not playing. It just means you're probably a pawn in someone else's strategy. So think of this explainer as your guide to understanding the core plays from this modern masterpiece. So where do we start? Well, the first pillar of power isn't about what you do, but what people think you do. Controlling perception, how others see you, that is the absolute foundation of all influence. To really see this in action, let's look at two guys from history who made very, very different choices. Their stories perfectly break down law number one: never outshine the master. First up, we have Nicolas Fouquet, France's finance minister. He threw this absolutely mind-blowing party to impress his boss, King Louis XIV, but it backfired, big time. The party was so grand, so spectacular, that the king felt small and insecure. What happened the very next day? Fouquet was arrested on bogus charges and spent the rest of his life rotting in a prison cell. Ouch. Now, check out the flip side. You have Galileo, a true genius who needed money to do his work. So when he discovered the moons of Jupiter, he didn't just shout it from the rooftops. No, he strategically named them after the Medici family, his patrons, whose symbol just happened to be Jupiter. This brilliant flattery got him a cushy job and funding for life. See the difference? He made his masters feel more brilliant, not less. This quote just nails it, right? Your image is such a powerful weapon. And it's not just about making sure your boss doesn't feel insecure. It's also about actively getting into the spotlight. This brings us to another law: court attention at all costs. And there's no better example than the rivalry between Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla. Edison was a master showman, always staging these big public demonstrations and making crazy claims. Tesla, who was arguably the more brilliant inventor, just didn't have that knack for self-promotion, and he died broke. As Greene says, it's way better to be attacked or even slandered than to be completely ignored. Your reputation, your image, that's your most valuable asset. Guard it carefully. Okay, so having a powerful image is a great start, but it's just the beginning. The next level is mastering strategy. It's about shifting from just being seen to being in control, making other people play by your rules, not just reacting to theirs. This perfectly demonstrates law number 8, make other people come to you. Back in 1600, this warlord, Tokugawa Ieyasu, was facing a huge rival. But instead of charging in, he was patient. He waited. He planted spies, spread misinformation, and bribed his enemy's key allies. By the time his rival finally got impatient and attacked, his army was already tired and full of traitors. Ieyasu completely crushed him, all because he controlled the game and forced his opponent to make the first fatal mistake. But controlling the board also means you have to be absolutely decisive. Once you've got the upper hand, you cannot hesitate. And this brings us to one of the book's most ruthless laws. Number 15, crush your enemy totally. You know, the Romans learned this lesson the hard way. They beat their rivals Carthage, not once, but twice, and both times they let them off the hook. Big mistake. Fearing Carthage would rise a third time, they launched another war with one single goal: complete and total annihilation. They burned the city to the ground, ensuring it could never, ever be a threat again. The lesson? A rival you leave with even a tiny bit of hope is a rival who will eventually come back for revenge. All right, the third pillar of power is all about mastering communication. And according to Greene, what you don't say is often way more powerful than what you do. This is the absolute core of law number 4. Always say less than necessary. King Louis XIV was a genius at this. His statements were famously short, a bit vague, and it drove his entire court crazy. They were constantly trying to figure out what he meant, analyzing every single word. The less he said, the more powerful and wise he seemed. And you know, there's some real psychology behind this. Silence makes people anxious. They get uncomfortable and they rush to fill the void. And when they do that, they often spill their own plans and weaknesses. When you say less, people have to lean in and listen more carefully, and your words suddenly carry a lot more weight. This idea of restraint goes beyond just being quiet. It's the whole basis for another key law: win through your actions, never through argument. Think about it. Arguing just makes people defensive. It almost never changes their mind. But a real, tangible demonstration, that's impossible to ignore. Remember Galileo? He didn't get into shouting matches with the church. He just showed them the moons through his telescope. Actions speak for themselves.
So we've looked at managing perception, controlling strategy, and wielding words like a weapon. But all of this leads to the central and, kind of uncomfortable question at the very heart of this book.
Greene himself has said that these laws aren't about being good or evil. They're just tools. The book is describing the world as it is, not as we wish it was. So the real question for you is this knowledge a weapon for manipulation? Or is it a shield to defend yourself from people who would use these very same tactics against you? Ultimately, the book's message is pretty stark. Power is a game, and it's always being played, whether you like it or not. You can't just decide not to play. So the only choice you really have is whether you want to understand the rules and play to win, or just stay a pawn on someone else's board.